Welcome to today's webinar, The Challenges of Construction Management, featuring an interview of George Jergeas. George is an extraordinary individual in terms of his experience and his background, a professor formerly at the University of Calgary in engineering. But he's not just an engineer, he's a humanist. And the discussion today will be quite wide-ranging. He's got a presentation prepared, and I'll be interrupting him from time to time. As we talk about, well, let's start off with a very important point I'd like to raise with you, George, and that is, why is this topic even relevant today? I'm not sure that people would even understand the relevance of project management to Canada. So why don't you, before your presentation, why don't you give a little bit of color of why this is important today?
Thank you. A great question. Thank you. And Perry, thank you very much for inviting me to this group. I saw a few of your colleagues' videos. Excellent. I am very much impressed with the discussions you are leading. Thank you very much again. Why is it important? I have investigated major capital project, the delivery of major capital project from a university professor as a researcher, as well as I was a claim and dispute consultant in Calgary, investigating a project and what could go wrong. And every major project, we are exceeding the cost overrun beyond 100%. So, and repeated the same lessons that we learned on a project, it keep repeating itself again and again. So lessons learned are not learned. They are, we should name them lessons to be repeated on the next project. And it sounds funny, but unfortunately it's happening. Take me to any brand new project and go and introduce myself, George, gonna document your lessons learned. They say, George, Perry, what are you talking about? We haven't started the project. Okay, basically you're gonna repeat the same lessons that we got on the previous thing. So when we lose 100%, more than 100% on recent project, I've seen bigger percentages. Why this is important? Really our future in Canada, Alberta, at stake here. The same lessons, the same cost overrun, the same delays happening. So what we are doing, we are affecting the confidence in the business community as well in the delivery of our project. And so investment will go somewhere else. So if we are more efficient, we can build more project and more people employed. It doesn't matter what type of project, nuclear, oil and gas, sustainable, non-sustainable, we need to deliver them more efficiently. The other problem, Perry, is we know the problems. We know the solutions. I did a study on this one. What are the problems? They listed. Industry, they know this. We have brilliant people. Then I said, okay, what's your solution? They give you all the solution. I said, okay, what are the barriers that are preventing you from implementing the solution? They gave me that one as well.
And what do you get as an answer?
Different kind of answer. They give you bureaucracy, no empowerment. We can't make decision committees, all of that thing. And it goes all the way. This is why we all the way to government and management, higher management, executive, the pressure on doing it now. And no, you can't do it in billion, $500 million. You can't do it in 2 billion. It must be 1 billion. So the budget will be reduced and go. What about engineering? No. Go to construction. And many of these, and I'm going to touch on those, some of them a little bit. And so we know the problem. We know the solution. We know the barriers to the solution to implement. But that gap, we are not doing better on the next project. Different bunch of people will come again and repeat the same thing.
Okay,
And people
let me probe that a second. It would seem to me that private sector ought to be better than public sector than in larger projects because of the amount of bureaucracy in the public sector. But I see you shaking your head. Maybe you can explain why.
Yeah, the private sector.
If private sector is driven by profit, you would seem that the reputation of the organization and the loss of profit would be a significant impediment for poor project management. They'd get better at it.
Yeah, unfortunately, the private sector, and when it comes to mega project, did not do a good job either on any major capital project. So I can't blame government here only. So we have a project, I will not name them, done since early 2000 until now, private sector, public sector. The problem is mega. It's a different animal. Mega is big project, too complex, too many people, and complexity, not only the size is one part of complexity, and the other side of it is technological complexity. So if you've been to Fort McMurray area, and if I was lucky to see many of these major projects as an engineer, I am proud of what our colleagues did in these major capital projects. It's very complex. The problem is because of this complexity and size could overwhelm any one of us. And it did. Private sector or public sector. That's my answer.
It was Lieutenant Governor Helen Hunley who warned me, be very cautious of mega projects.
She's right.
She said, break them down into smaller pieces. But anyway,
Yeah.
I'll get on with your presentation. This is a good beginning. So you're on, George.
Yeah, you cut this big elephant to pieces and manage each small piece in a project. Then we end up with another complexity is the coordination between the pieces. So really we need a maestro, a conductor. And in my classes, I ask, what is the best definition of a project manager? And Claire, I ask, those are engineers. I ask them, what's the best definition of project manager? None yet to receive an answer saying he or she must be a good engineer. I did not receive that.
Right.
Everybody says the coordinator, facilitator.
Right.
And you see, they pick the right responses, i.e., my definition is a project manager is a person who does absolutely nothing. I want that one. Right. He or she act as a coordinator. Okay, we cut the elephant, Perry, to a few pieces. Piece one, give it to one project manager, another piece to another project. So what do you do then? An engineering to one EPC company, a procurement to another, a project control to another. You are the conductor, no more the player.
Sounds like
Gretzky, the manager, not Gretzky, the player. You used to be a good player, fine. Now you are managing. You don't expect to play. And that emphasizes do nothing project manager to focus on leadership, on communication, on decision-making, supporting the team, empowering the team. These are the missing thing.
You've described exactly how the brain is organized. Why don't we set up our organizations so they function the way the brain does, the motor system, the sensory system, with the brain doing the integration? Okay, you're on with your presentation.
Excellent. Perry, we could go like this, presenting by discussion. So I will not bore you, please, all of you, because I don't want to go into detail, but the importance of this, we are not investing enough because the fear of cost overrun. So if you hear any announcement in the future, green line, white line, whatever line you have anywhere in Canada, say, what's going to happen? Ottawa, they just finished a project, again, LRT kind of thing. Again, another problem. So I picked a few slides around these topics and how projects are delivered. This is the life cycle of a project in the industrial sector, especially the oil and gas. Most likely, most of the oil and gas companies have this. I deliberately picked this one because we are in Alberta. And the government organization, they pick a little bit, there are differences, but let's watch this one. Look at, so phases, phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, great. So basically steps. The first one, you identify and assess opportunity. This is the business side. Why do we want to go where? Why do we want to build something? Why do we want to invest? What is the opportunity? The economic, the MBA guys, and the business side. Here you decide the feasibility of the project. Yeah, we need a project. Great. And then you open the gate, gate 1, go to phase 2. In phase 2, we generate alternatives. How we deliver this project? We could do it this way, that way, this way, that way, all alternative. Okay, put all the alternative on the table. Again, on the table, no biases. The biases are killing us. And especially by people who have experience in something and ignore other alternatives or other possible alternatives. Maybe good, maybe bad. So the advice here, put all the alternative on the table, then select the best alternative, no biases. And the reason I'm saying this because there is a project in Newfoundland. It's called Muskrat Falls Project. They had one of the many problems. I wish I could visit you again and just tell you about what happened on Muskrat Falls. I was appeared as an expert witness on that project. Before the Commission of Inquiry, there was investigation. They ignored one alternative. Should have been better. Then you open gate 2, you go to gate phase 3. Basically, whatever you picked, selected in phase 2, you develop it a little bit, i.e. engineer it. And in oil and gas industry, they're about 25% of engineering. Look at my red. This is me now. In red at the bottom, 25% engineering is not enough to provide the required accuracy at the end. Because phase 3 is called FID or AFE. FID, Final Investment Decision, or Approval for Expenditure. Or if you don't like that, call it budget. Okay, so this is where the engineers and the business development people, they go to the board of directors and say, we need 3 billion, 100 million, it doesn't matter. But based on what? On 25% engineering, which tells you the scope really was not defined very well. But for budgetary purposes, this is only for budgetary purposes. Then we say, yeah, okay, proceed to phase 4, which is execute. We will do detailed engineering, procurement, and construction. Okay, and the procurement of little thing, but long lead items like big things should have been done in phase 3. Look at the bottom of phase 3. Long leads, regulatory approval. This is where government can help. Regulatory approval, I want that very quickly. I don't want the government to touch anything anymore. Please, these big project like Trans Mountain Pipeline and the rest of it. And then approval, done. You move to phase 3. You do detailed design, procurement. One of the procurement element is you select construction contractors and fabricators. And in some organization, commissioning is part of phase 4. Husky, for example, took the same thing and made commissioning a separate one and made it a separate phase and called phase 4 commissioning. Fine. While Suncor have the same thing with the different terminologies. They had commissioning phase 4 and operate phase 5. Sorry, this phase 4 should be 5. I just found a typo. The last phase is 5. And so, but what is this? This is the thinking process. But what happens sometimes, we go quickly, we push ourselves, and we make decision and regret it later. One of them that's relevant today to my discussion, if we go prematurely to construction, and I hope somebody here in the procurement, and so if I want to build a mega project and it's not designed well, and I want a contractor to build it, they say, George, I can't give you lump sum price. Procurement, I give you cost reimbursable contract or cost plus. Who is taking the risk in cost plus? It's the owner. If you don't define the scope and design it well, you can't do it lump sum. And there is more to that. What risk you are giving or the contractor or asking the contractor to take, because they price it and it goes up and down. And I can elaborate on those issues. Look at this. This is a picture I found, a photo from Syncrude 21 expansion. And look at the complexity. How many module you see, how many crane in blue and white and yellow and red, small crane, big crane. Each one of these is a contract fabricated in somewhere in Edmonton, and in some project they tried to fabricate in Korea and had another bigger problem than that when they fabricated in Korea and to send it to a US port, and it's stuck into nightmare. I will talk about it. And then the weather condition. Imagine we are, I think most of us are in Alberta, and people in the cold weather. So productivity will drop and all of, so there are many factors. What if engineering is not ready? What if the material is not ready? Tools not ready? Equipment not ready? We pick the wrong contract. So there are many factors. Where is the conductor? This is the Muskrat Fall project. 6.3 became 13 billion. Commission of inquiry established, and the judge pushed the leadership extremely hard on this. It blamed leaders of the owner organization, Nalcor. It's called Nalcor. And they experienced problem with weather, geotechnical, aboriginal, environmental. The team did not work. They fired the engineer. They changed the engineer. Oh, I can go on and on. But the number one, lack of leadership and lack of competence. You don't know this business. None of you knows about mega project. And you have, by the way, we have lots of publications. So it's not a new thing. And judge said, there is a lot of material available to you. Why didn't you at least read it, review it, learn from lessons learned? And despite the fact you don't have experience as well, you should have done it. Anyway, after the fact. So today, you see, I can go in a million directions. But today we're going to focus on the construction. And my colleague, God bless his soul, Bob McTagg, was the president of Optima Engineers and Constructors. We developed a report in 2002 on labor productivity in Alberta. The government of Alberta said, George, Bob, why labor productivity is low? What's happening? We investigated and we wrote a report. And Perry, I can send the report if you want. And we found out labor productivity. This is why, look at the title. I don't call it labor productivity. It's construction productivity. It's not a labor issue. It is management issue. It's mismanagement issue. Workers are idle. Yeah, why? Workers are not productive. Why? Waiting for material, tools, equipment, design, information, decisions. Nothing to do with the workers. And lazy. They are talking about the Flames and Edmonton Oilers. Great. Where is supervision? They go to the coffee break and their coffee break, and it takes them longer. Where is supervision? So it's management as well. So number one, we need to look at ourselves in the mirror. So construction productivity, very complex issue. The interaction between of labor, capital, material, and equipment. But regardless to everything I said, there is a huge room for improvement. We can improve. We can do better. I trust we have great engineers and workers and construction contractors. We are great. Technically, I have no problem. They are good. We can build anything you want. We can. Room for improvement, and any one of us, all of us has a role. All of us. So, to improve labor productivity, I think this slide is useful. I will not go into detail, but you need to provide your workers with right tools, right equipment at the right time. You need to look at the human side and human resources of it, training, competency of the workers, and more. Engineering and design. I just gave you a percentage, 25% engineering or 40% is not enough. I will give you the right percentage in a minute if you really want to go to construction. And a process and procedure, right material at the right time, and also the environment surrounding the site and site layout and weather condition. And there are many things. Please look at these little tiny bullets. So we did a study, and we found that in the oil and gas, our performance is the direct cost. Look at the green. It is 30% of workday in direct hours, or we call it tool time. 30%, i.e. 3 hours of the 10 are on the real stuff. So what happens to the other 7 hours? Waiting, idle, travel, correcting mistakes, and planning. So non-productive time, the rest other than the green, let's call them non-productive or non-tool time. Some of it, we need that. Like I receive information or instruction from my bosses, from my site superintendent, or reviewing drawings. I am not using the tool. I am not producing. That's good. We need that. But we need, look at the opportunity, what we can do to help. If you cut a little percentage from each little piece, why are they idle? Why are they waiting? What are they waiting for? And we do that. Travel, like for example, I need to go to the storage area to fetch something, back and forth and going there, and the material is not there, and come back. All of that, the travel time is used to go to your lunchtime, to come back from your lunchtime. We need to do a good study, and we can. And in my slide, I have that. So we can do better. I want to leave a positive message here, not negative. Please, we can improve our performance. It's not impossible. We know the problem, we know the solution, and we know the barriers, as I said. But we have a role to play. The owners, the engineering contractor, the construction contractor, labor, government, and other stakeholders, including politicians and the community. And so we can go through what is needed from each one of them.
So George, let me interrupt you for a moment, because you've already convinced me of something, and I'm wondering whether this happens. Are you ever called in to work with a project before it's launched?
I am now working on a project in, I can declare it, a renovation of a dam in New Brunswick. Difficult name for me. It's called Mactwack Dam. It's an old dam, and they're going to renovate it and refurbish it. I am working with them exactly ahead of time at the beginning from planning. Hopefully, I will stay all the way to construction. Yes, but very few times, most of the time, I am late.
Well, I ask for two reasons. I mean, one of them is if before launch you bring in a third party independent of the organization to say, okay, we've done our very best before we launch, let's have a third party review of what we've got here. And it would seem to me that any organization worth its weight in gold would want to say, before we proceed, let's have a third party do a checkup on us.
Excellent point. I'm glad you raised it. I was not planning to talk about it. This is the life cycle. What owners need to do, they need to have internal oversight and outside assurance. So my role with Mactwack Dam for New Brunswick Power, MB Power, is providing them with assurance. What are we doing in phase 2? So they are in phase 2, jumping into phase 3. So specific question at each phase. Have you done this? Have you done that? A reminder, show me. So we are reviewing currently every single report done about project execution plan, for example.
Yeah, and this is almost a pre-audit instead of a post-audit.
Yes, yes, timely. So we are moving with them. And that's called assurance. I think we need it, especially, you know why? One thing is, we found in many studies, there is a Danish guy who works as a professor at Oxford University in the UK. His name is Bent Flyberg. He talks about biases as well. He talks about deliberate underestimation of the budget so the project will be approved I will never say that. So the FID, or AFE deliberately underestimated. So they got the project approved, and then we are stuck with it, pregnant. What you can do, and you can't get out of it. And so that we have a lot of study. Then the bias is what killing me. So we need somebody. When they hired me, MB Power, I asked the CEO. I said, please give me one thing I want from you. Don't fire me because I gave you my honest opinion. This is another problem, Perry. Some people do not want to listen to news that they didn't like it, or opinion they don't like it. Probably yourself and your members, with your experience, you've seen that. So when you hire somebody as a consultant, please give them the freedom to give you their honest opinion, even if you don't like their opinion. And I did ask that because otherwise, because I was fired on a mega project, I said to them, you are not ready to proceed with the project. And they fired me. They didn't like that. And I wish now they did not. They did not even dare to ask George, how dare you say we are not ready? Why? They didn't say that. All of those people been fired, and the cost overrun is unbelievable. This is what makes me unhappy. Anyway, so how we improve productivity? Another report we did is what we do, solution. This is solution. Okay. The first phases, phase 1, 2, 3, is called front end, the front end of a project. So or sometimes called front end planning or front end loading, the beginning, which is the planning, the thinking. Improve that. Seek input from procurement, engineering, construction, and operation. What? i.e., when you plan a project and you start designing it, get the opinion of the people who are going to operate. Get the opinion of people who are going to engineer. Get, more importantly, the people who are going to build it. Because pure engineers probably might design something too complex. Get somebody who built it before. Just the constructability, the workability. Engage major supply chain early. And require contracting strategy that allow the above what I just said, and build collaborative relationship. We are teams, not bunch of enemies. And I've seen from my claims and dispute business, I've seen how adversarial these contracts are. It's saddening. One day I will talk to you about stories and enhanced design and engineering. You see, now you say, George, you came here to talk about productivity. Look what I'm talking. I'm going after the root causes. If we ignore the root causes, we're going to repeat. Standardize, modularize, reduce the practice of fast tracking. Let me define fast tracking. Fast tracking, you go faster, i.e., you overlap design with construction. I.e., while you're designing, you started construction. Meaning engineering is half-baked or quarter-baked, 25% engineering. Guess what? There will be a mistake. You miss something. When do you discover it? During construction. Expensive. Expensive. Unless you must. If I have a flood, God forbid, in Calgary, and I am the mayor or somebody, I will go fast track. I want to save the community. So there is reason sometimes to fast track, fine. But if we fast track, we're going to pay for it. Consider that in your budget. Consider that. There is a brilliant study, British study called, and I would like you to Google now as I'm speaking, the Fast Track Manual. The Fast Track Manual by an association called ECI. ECI stands for the European Construction Institute, based at Loughborough University, my university that I graduated from. And so happy to see that report. Please download it free of charge, PDF. And basically, it's the fast track manual said, okay, if you're going to fast track, this is what you need to do and expect to pay this much. Even they gave you a percentage. So if you're going to budget and estimating. So I am not saying don't fast track. I'm saying if you are forced to fast track, if fast track is needed, then budget for the additional risk associated with it, including making mistake, because you're going to make decision. You can't wait for all the information and facts to make a decision. You can't. So that's, consider constructability during design. That's important. More, seek lessons learned. And Perry, where I put seek lessons learned in the methodology, remember phase 1, 2, 3? In phase 2 and 3, I will put that statement, seek lessons learned. Seek lessons learned. Then later on, I say document lessons learned. Document lessons learned, what we learned. But at the very beginning, anybody build a SAGD project, a water treatment plant project, a tunnel project, a bridge project? Okay, what did we learn in the past? We need to do that. And apply industry best practices like constructability, value engineering, teamwork, stuff like that. This is important here, and enhance design quality. We need good engineering. So 25%, not enough. Apply the 80-100 rule. George, Perry, somebody gonna ask, George, where did you get this number? I asked your colleagues in industry, what is the best engineering we need to get construction to flow smoothly, productively? They said, George, apply the 80-100. I said, what is this? 80% of engineering complete before mobilizing to site. So don't send your crew to Fort McMurray until 80% complete, and 100% of IFC drawing before construction. What is IFC? IFC stands for issued for construction drawings, i.e., after we finished engineering, detailed engineering. That is important. That's important. Then the workers will have a final kind of good quality engineering. But George, do you expect changes? Absolutely. Do you expect mistake? Absolutely. But less. Much less when we have this quality of percentage completion. And if we don't do that, design review by construction and operation. Operations actually, they're completely ignored during the early stages. These are the people who are gonna operate the project. Really, they are the real client of an organization. Because they're gonna commission the project. So we need them in many cases, for many things. They know what works before, what technology worked, what technology did not work. The users are very important. Seek that. The construction as well is the practical way of assembling the Lego set as well. We need that. We did a study with at the university between the Construction Owners Association of Alberta, the acronym is COA, and CII, the Construction Industry Institute, and my team at the University of Calgary. And we found that really the 80 to 100% is the best percentage that we can go with. So twice I got the same information. So improve, what else we can do? Proper management of construction. Now how we manage construction, especially up north, camp facilities, the travel to that site, access to site and layout. And I can go through all of these, proper management of all of these tools, equipment, scaffolding. Now, I don't want to go too much in detail, but in cost plus contract, the owner pays for the labor, hourly rate, and the material use and all of that. So if I have this bulb to do, I bring the scaffolding, build the scaffold up and finish, and change the bulb. Finished my task. Disassemble the scaffolding. And then another guy comes in, I say, oh, we have this valve there. Okay, build the scaffolding in and dismantle the scaffold. So we need the proper management of everything on this list. And please, I don't want to bore you more. And improve supervision and supervision to labor ratio, provide adequate labor, be accountable for scope. So workers need to be engaged. Yes, we look after them, health and safety, motivation, accommodation, but we need to empower them. We need to plan activities. So all of that thing, if I isolate myself from my workforce, I say to a project leader and project manager, if you are on a camp, go and sit on the bus. When the worker comes from camp at 6 a.m., drive 2 hours or 1 hour, whatever, go through the gate with them. And while you are sitting on the bus, talk to the next guy next to you, say, hi, how are you? I'm George. And be part of that team. Those workers are not robots, they are people. And if you treat them with respect and know their concerns and their issues, they're gonna serve you, you would not believe it. So we don't isolate ourselves from our workforce as well. We look after them, apply this, our core value system. And
Does trying to work 2 or 3 shifts at a construction site advance or reduce elapsed time? And does it just add more cost?
Yes, shift and overtime add cost as well. So because there is overlap and unproductive time, like overtime been studied and shifts, and it actually drops in productivity. Give you an example. Regularly, if we work 8 hours and go home, great. But if we start working 10 hours a day, people are tired and we see a drop in productivity downward. So what we need is to provide incentive, and if we must have overtime, then do it. But take that into consideration, that will be people just tired.
Yogi is not looking at overtime. He's talking about bringing in multiple workforces.
Yeah, but then force number 1 leaves, and then the night shift comes. There is overlap in between. Then shift 2 gonna work at night, and missing this, missing that. That overlap will be a loss of productivity.
Okay, you're at slide 18, you got 31, and we've got about 20 minutes to go.
Oh, yeah, oh, yes, thank you. But give your workforce a voice. I really wanted us to think, reward, milestones, completion. We need to start dealing with everyone and in a respectful manner, in a caring manner. Then we are one team: workers, contractors, suppliers, subcontractors, and so on. Enhance communication, clarify roles and responsibility and authorities. And this is a big one. You know, I have seen people sign contract without reading it. Okay, as simple as that. So so we need to help ourselves into building a team, lines of communication. What's my role? Ground rules. What's your roles? How are we going to behave? All of that needs to be done in advance. I am throwing at you a lot. Since this is a group of people, I've seen talking about procurement. Okay, what type of contract? EP, engineering procurement, EPCM, EPC, engineering procurement construction management, or engineering procurement construction, or CM, or just C. So different kind of contract. Advantages, disadvantages, which one we use, how we're going to pay, the compensation model, lump sum, cost plus, unit rate. Not difficult, but we need to do it. We can do it. But which one suits where? Big project, small project. I can guarantee, mega project, nobody will give you a lump sum. Nobody. Pick the biggest, Fluor, Bechtel, put them all together. They will never give you a lump sum. Never. And they can't. And so we need to break it into smaller chunks. And then which one? If I have engineered it well, go lump sum. And I have to go fast and I don't have to engineer it well, go cost reimbursable. If you go cost reimbursable, expect cost overrun, drop in productivity, and so on. Government agency, I want them to grant timely approvals, remove barriers, including labor mobility, improve infrastructure, and so on. Number 8, I think we need as industry to treat productivity like we treated safety. Have a safety officer. Appoint somebody with experience to become the champion for productivity. And instead, so we have productivity champion. And so I'm going to suggest 2 things, and I will stop talking. 2 phases we need to do. We need to audit project readiness for construction. Are we ready before we go? Are we ready to mobilize to construction? What should I do? Are we ready to start productive construction? And in phase 2, we need to conduct regular tool time analysis or analyses. Regular. Are we productive? And to prove that, or to summarize this, phase 1 and phase 2, it's the pipe. I would like you to audit, like Perry, we said early. So before we we go to construction, we need to ask a few questions. And I will show you the major list of it, the question. And then in phase 2, we do to the job site and measure tool time. How many out of the day, how many minutes spent using tools, how many minutes they went to fetch something, to asking for something, waiting for something. And we've done this. I have done it personally when I was a student in the UK. I went to a job site and shadowed a crew and watched every single minute, where they go, where they come. So we know how to do it. So for example, to be productive, how do we do a good job? You do a good job if you do a good job in cost management, in schedule management, in work planning, in monitoring progress and productivity, in quality management, safety management. So if you look at 14 item I divided, and we developed a weight for each one of them. So we can verify if the team is ready to do a good job in all of these things. And then what is missing? Safety management, say, go back. Labor relationship, go back. What about, how are you going to manage material? What does it mean, good job in material management? Number 9. And so we verify all of those. Tool time, look at this one, tool time. We look at crew 1, crew 2, crew 3. This is a real life project we did in the US. And as you can see in the color, like Matt, his team was working 60%. And 14% of the time, look, socializing. They were talking about the Super Bowl. And Greg, poor guy, 36. So we go, Greg, what happened here? Greg, what happened? Why? And socializing 16%. And so we can tackle these. Look at Mike Sheely. Well done, 75% of the time. They were productive. So the idea is not to blame. This should be done with the workers, with the team, with the contractor. This is done when they asked us in the US, in Louisiana, the contractor and the owner were engaged with the workforce, committed to it. I know it could be sensitive, but the idea was to do it. And we did this exercise. Okay, do you remember we have a break? Like we start at 8, let's assume. Are we starting at 8? If we have coffee break, we have lunch, and then we go home, packing. So we investigated that. 10:15 to 11 o'clock break. And look what we found. We found some people come early, 20 to 16 minutes. People come early to the coffee break, 15 to 11 minutes earlier, and so on. Or 10 minutes to 6 minutes. Lots of workers. And then they leave later. That's who is responsible for this? I am enjoying. I'm talking myself with my colleagues. We're talking about family, our grandchildren, we have hockey and football and Taylor Swift, all of that thing. And so somebody must be there. Must be there. So this is what we do. And to apply best practices, I'm going to finish very quickly and look at this on the left-hand side. Tool time on a project in Calgary was 45.95%. With applying best practices after that, we improved it to 54.6, and we can monitor performance basically survey number 1, number 2, number 3, and you can see the trend going up and up. And with this, I thank you very much, Perry. Thank you and team for the opportunity, and I wish you great success. I hope you see the relevance. The relevance is we all share and have responsibility to get the job done efficiently, to encourage owner organization, investors, government organization to invest in our project, including new road construction.
Well, easier said than said. I mean, this is not, these mega projects have extraordinary complexity to them, which is illustrated in a number of the points that you brought to bear. I'm going to call on Yogi's got a very specific question, which he's going to pose to you. So Yogi, go ahead.
Thank you, Perry. Great discussion, George. You know, I was thinking that there don't seem to be any political consequences for the senior executives who push to start the site work before your start criteria have actually been met. It seems like they've been congratulated for getting this thing on the road, and they've been promoted, and they've moved on long before the disaster that you outlined actually occurs. Am I making this up, or is that consistent with your experience?
Absolutely. You are absolutely correct. Two things I will add. I say to my class as well, if you are a project manager and on a project, somebody says, George, I would like you to be the project manager of this major project. I ask my student to ask the following question. Am I the first project manager? If they say yes, I say to my engineers, don't take it because you will be fired. If they say you are the third project manager, take it because you're going to become the hero finishing the project and blame the other guys. So usually they blame the project manager, but these are scapegoats. Project manager has nothing to do with it. It's the higher level. It is the decision and to invest, to no biases, to develop the alternatives, select the best alternatives, don't rush. I know of stories where they go to the AFE and say, this is a budget. They say, no, sharpen your pencil, go back, blah, 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 all of this. And then they produce another number and just to approve the project. We've been through it. But to answer your question, Yogi, is on Muskrat Falls, the senior level manager, including the CEO, lost his job. And the major director lost his job as well.
You touched on something.
So you must have been looking at my resume, George, because the projects that I'm most proud of, I definitely was the second project manager.
You both touched on a project that I'm well aware of in Edmonton with the LRT, where they're having some failures. The analysis that was brought to my attention, whether or not it's ever been acknowledged or not, was there were numerous changes of project manager. Yes. Over and over and over again. It went on for years, like 3 years, before they ever got the project done. And all they could do along the way was keep on firing the project manager. It seems to me that that might have been the major contributor to the problem.
Yeah, one day I thought I will put a mirror in front of the CEO of a company, just a joke, so they can look at themselves in the mirror. Yeah. They are the root cause. Because they could hire you. I'll give you an example. One project in Fort McMurray, senior management decided to fabricate in Korea, South Korea. Nothing wrong with South Korea. Great engineering, they fabricate anything you want. But we could fabricate in Edmonton and Calgary as well. Good quality. Nothing wrong with it. But the company head office in Houston said, Korea. And some of you probably remember what I'm talking about,
Mhm.
which project. So they fabricated in Korea. So if you are, Yogi, you are the project manager. Congratulations, Yogi, you are the project manager. And by the way, don't worry about fabrication. We already finished it for you. You know, they made decision. It's Korea. Okay, great. What happened? They put the biggest module on a ship. They can. Great, because this will reduce the man hour on the job site in Fort McMurray. Great. There is no way you can download these big monsters in Vancouver, you know, because of Kicking Horse. Okay, now Kicking Horse is straight line. Let me talk about that one in a minute if I can. Kicking Horse, now it's straight line. So they went to a port just south in the US and downloaded everything in the US. Then Idaho and Montana said, you are taking these big module monsters on our highway, you're gonna damage our highway, which is right. Now what we're gonna do? They already delivered the modules. They cut them into smaller pieces, took them on a smaller lorries, trucks, and took them to Edmonton, welded them back, and sent them to Fort McMurray. Congratulations, project manager. Has nothing to do with it, the project manager. Decision already made in phase 1, 2, 3. Project manager in phase 4. So talking about good, successful project, I will give you Crowchild and 37 Avenue. And Jeff reminded me, that was a fast track project between the city of Calgary, and they brought the contractor, I think PCL, and the engineer, and I was the team building role on that project. I was so happy with the collaboration and the team. They functioned as one team. We are in it together. And to finish this project, it was fast track. And I did also, I don't know, Jeff, I did a survey on that project, why this project was successful. Do you know the answer I got? It's leadership, it's decision-making, leadership that made it, working collaboratively. When I went to the site, I don't know which one is the contractor, which one is the engineer. They were working hand in hand, the contractor and the engineer named ISL. That's one. Talking about Kicking Horse, my role was on that project, and is just team building between a consortium of contractors and the Ministry of Transportation of BC, and the team worked nicely, working together. So we can do many things, but that government organization and its roads, the percentage of engineering is much better, but they have their own challenges. Anybody drove there, just look at the geography, okay? And so we all have challenges, but we need to do a better job in working together. Leadership. Leaders have responsibility. I published a book called Benevolent Dictatorship for Major Capital Project. I deliberately said benevolent dictatorship. I want the leaders to, they have a role to play. It's not to blame the project manager their role.
I don't have the list in front of me that you gave us. I think it had 10 different items in it that you had percentages of how much effort goes into every one of them. How many of those 10, or let's say 100%, how many of them were human issues as opposed to concrete construction? And are engineers trained in human resource management?
No, I'm lucky to say, and I'm proud to say, I did that on in our courses, how to build a team, how to sustain the team, how to, we evaluate the performance. Number one is communication, decision-making. Yeah, I pay less attention to how we manage cost and time and all of that. And decision-making, is the team empowered at the lowest managerial level, or it's dictatorship and nobody empowered? So usually, but to answer you, industry for a long time focused on the technical side, including project management associations as well. Even the discipline of project management is about time management, cost management, risk management, and human resources coming, stakeholder management. Look at stakeholder management. How do you deal with native issues, community issues? People don't have confidence even to deal with these issues. They are afraid. It's political and I don't know what to say and politically correct or not. And they can't do it. They can't do it.
This is the buffer between technology and humans. Klaus, you've got a point you want to make here, and then I'm going to come back and wrap it up. I've got one last question for George. Go ahead, Klaus. If he's there. Yeah. You're muted, Klaus. You're muted. There we go.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting to speak here. George, I agree with everything that you've identified here, and it's certainly stuff that I've run into all the time. I mean, I was with Mammoet, the crane company that put all the modules, brought them all up to Fort McMurray, but they were never part of the initial design contract. They were a subcontractor when it was too late to change things. So had they brought in Mammoet right off the bat, they would have figured out that you couldn't do what the guys in Korea did and put up the modules. I still am a very big fan of building the modules here in Edmonton, where you didn't have the 2-hour bus ride to the site in all sorts of weather. And they had the equipment to do that. And yeah, I really agree with you, is that there's not enough money, having been in the engineering business, to ever do it right. You never do a proper job of detailing what's needed, and then it becomes very adversarial between you and the contractor, who you've never met because he was one of 3 people that low bid the job to begin with, and now there's a big issue between you designed it wrong to you can't build worth the fuck sort of thing, and that just becomes a big issue. And we're getting in these big mega projects. You know, one of your bullet points was it has to be a trusting team and collaborative, but there's a Dunbar's number. Dunbar said you can never have a tribe more than 150 people before you lose control of communication. You cannot be part of a tribe and know enough about that person to trust them and be good at it. That's more than 150. Well, these workforces are much bigger than that. They come from all different directions and that sort of thing. Every time you hand off something, you lose something in the communication and that sort of thing. So I think it's part of it is the pure size. And part of it is not spending enough time at the beginning to see if you were solving the right problem to begin with. So I really like how you've set out the problem. I'm not sure if any of us have any of the solutions. I know the big fad right now is integrated project delivery, where you put everybody in the same room at the same time. But again, somebody has to make a decision at the end of it, sort of thing. Every decision has winners and losers. And how do you trust people enough to look out for you as well? And all this stuff looks really good in concept. I've never seen it work in real time.
You want to comment, George?
Yeah, I think I'm not losing faith. We have done it. We have a few projects. I think we can build the team, but the owner need to decide what they want, design it very well. I want a house. Okay, what type of house? How many bedrooms? Great, 5, 3. What about kitchen? What do you want in the kitchen? And if we don't develop that, and then my wife comes in and say, I don't like this and don't like that, and then we have a problem. So the owner need to start. They need to develop the scope, define the scope, design the scope, and the owner need to do another thing, proper risk allocation. This is a big area. If I've seen like some owner organization basically pushes the risk to the contractor. Anything could happen, anything could go wrong, it's your responsibility. And give me one fixed price. And contractors do that. They give one price. So they try to price these risks. And something happen and they underestimate, or we pick the lowest compliant bidder. Okay. And the lowest basically made more mistake than the others. And then we get stuck in dispute as well. So proper risk allocation, work on the team, design it well, and then communicate well. You trust me or I don't, no problem. But at least we deal with each other in a fair manner. Fair.
George, there's a new tool available, a new player in this game. And may have significant implications for the future of project management. I know I've used this tool myself recently, where I was asked to analyze 72 different projects and what how remote they were and what the significant implications were on the final project. And I got the work done in less than 20 minutes. What do you think the relevance of artificial intelligence is going to be, AI, learning language models in project management?
I like it, actually, and I started using it. And I tell you what we do. On a project, I do something called health check. So I go up on a project and I have list of questions about many things.
Mhm.
So, and I ask them to score between 1 to 5 and give me a reason why 1, why 2, 1 is bad, 5 is really good, with good answers. And what I do as well, I see their answers, I see their problems. Then we go to AI,
Mhm.
and I ask AI, ChatGPT, and actually we are getting good answers.
Yeah.
And they laugh, the team. I say, this is your problem. This is how you identified it. This is your solution. And by the way, ChatGPT agrees with you or suggests something. And sometimes they score not very well, but they don't say what they suggest. I say, I said this. What do you think? And so I am happy with that. I think it can be used in project and project management and teaching. It can be used. I'm glad I am no longer a professor, so I don't know how to market.
Well, I mean, the thing that I have found extraordinary is its capacity to deal with complexity.
Yes.
With dealing with a situation where the variables are extensive and it's extremely difficult for a human being individually to manage. It's extraordinary in that respect. Well, we're over the hour. This has been delightful. I am very pleased that those who joined us today have been part of our earlier seminars and seem to be nodding their head along the way, George. So you've reinforced much of what we've touched on, and with the depth of your experience. The only question I've got left is, when you come onto a job site, do you scare the hell out of all the project managers, or are they glad to have you there as their coach?
I think I go as a coach, and they like me because of that. I am nice person. A few times I lose it, but in this capacity, I'm not. I try to be honest with all sides and give them my opinion in front of each other. So it's no hidden agenda. So the review of these questions in front of them, this is what you told me, this is what you said, these are your suggestions, those are ChatGPT, this is my opinion. And they hear it in front of them, and all of them. So in general, if you start from day one on a project, it's great. I've been into project at the very end when they have a mess. And one case successfully resolved, and by making them to strike an agreement, a compromise. And one case recently, I could not convince one side. I could not. They were more adversarial. Read the contract, contractor. You did not read the contract. Sue me if you want. I tried my best to convince. And I said to them, I wish I am an arbitrator, not a mediator. The reason mid-arbitrator decision is binding. And I said this to the owner, who did not like my suggestions. So, but this is life. This is life.
Sharon, you had your hand up. Any parting comments? You're muted.
Perry, I was just congratulating and thanking George for just a terrific presentation today. Thank you so much for giving us your time, and also in an orderly way, your thoughts on how productivity can be increased. And I will say that Perry, to pick up on your comment, I think from what George laid out today, it is certainly the pre-audit that just makes so much sense to me. And having that list of conditions to meet before you go on into actually, to me, it's kind of common sense, but maybe it isn't common sense, as we have seen in so many failed projects, which I am so frustrated at hearing in both municipal, provincial, and at federal levels on a regular basis. So we need George to replicate his ideas and have them sent out to people who count. I want to say on the topic of artificial intelligence, just today, there has been a new research report released that's talking about AI plus human decision-making. And what they're showing is, I'm going to read you the numbers here. This is humans plus AI on a 5-day idea sprint. They took it down from into 2.5 days from 5, and that they're getting 2 to 3 times more ideas that are legitimately useful ideas. So IA is here with us to stay, and it will be up to us to be able to be open to AI learning and applicable to all industries. So it's here to make a difference.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's a good point to wrap up on, is new tools arriving to help us with the decision-making that becomes increasingly complex as our systems mature, and particularly relevant in Canada. It's astounding what is happening with our mega projects in Canada, and I'm glad to see the relationship of those to productivity, which has a significant bearing on GDP in Canada. Somebody should be woken up. And I did see that Freeland has asked management in business to address the issues of productivity. So yeah.
Look at this. This is the first one I did for the government of Alberta on Deerfoot Trail
Right.
in 2001.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, the first question, how is communication? Difficult guarded on one side, easy up front. That's not engineering. Is the flow of information between Alberta Infrastructure and CarMax, the contractor? Look at that. Top management support. Where is the technology? Where is the engineering in this?
So George, what you really have done is translated project management is really fundamentally about management.
Yeah, and management
This
of
happens to be
people.
it happens to be applied to construction, and construction is about people, just like commerce is about people. It's management that's failing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. I wish you best of health to you and your families.